Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League. We are back this week to talk about many different things. Mark currently is not visible on the screen, much to my chagrin. How's it going, Mark?
Well, I'm right here. You can see me. Hello, jazz hands. Hello.
And Mark is
I'm good.
wearing a shirt that was given to him by the president of esports at Riot Games.
I'm the biggest John Needham fan around. I printed it out myself.
People could
Someone
barely
else
see
actually
it.
asked me that today. I was wearing it at Riot, and someone was like, "Is that for John Needham?" And I was like, "No, it's a town that I'm from."
Shout out to Alienware for sponsoring this week's episode. How has your week been, Mark Zimmerman?
Week's been good. I finally started Andor. Did you watch Andor?
Andor?
Andor? I thought it was Cassian Andor.
So I am like 2 or 3 episodes into it. It just has that same problem that every show other than Last of Us has, which is it starts so slow. And I did not get hooked in the first couple episodes. I'm just like, wow, nothing's happening in these episodes. So yeah.
I really like it for like the I thought at first, I admit that I thought Andor was a planet.
I thought it was too.
Was...
Isn't it a moon or a planet or something?
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is also that, because I got so confused when that was his last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Endor is a moon, but I also thought Andor was a place because it's just so close.
See, it's very confusing. They need to figure this out.
I blame the show for making me think that this was about a planet, and since everyone was like, "Oh, it's about galactic treachery," you know, like it's about how the Empire sucks. Whatever. Anyways, I really enjoy it. We binged like 5 or 6 episodes already. I agree that the opening is not like super hooky, but I really like the other POV characters that they introduce, and like seeing some of the like bureaucracy and like infighting within the Empire. It makes it feel so much more real than anything else Star Wars has ever done. I really enjoy it. I have a few nitpicks. Like I think the intro sequence, you know, with all the flashbacks with him as a kid. Yeah, I won't. I just did not find those compelling at all, and it felt like the most useless shit ever. And then I also think that the like lack of aliens is actually really taking me out of it, funnily enough. I'm like, one of the defining features of Star Wars is that there's just fucking aliens everywhere all the time, and there are literally no alien characters anywhere.
Well,
and like I know that's not a big thing, but like that's like one of the core pillars of Star Wars.
I hadn't really thought about that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it feels very much like they just didn't try, which is a little annoying, because it's like they'll have like aliens in the background of a shot, but like they just don't use them at all.
Yeah,
it's every episode of Star Wars, or like every movie and all that stuff, like very much includes aliens, and they're just like, nah, it's all humans. This weird tribe, humans. That weird tribe, humans. These people, humans. The people in the army, humans. The Empire, humans. The senators, humans. And I'm like, this is kind of immersion breaking, given that like every other piece of property that exists within this universe. But okay.
Well, I'm sorry.
Bro, you're gonna fall.
I'm sorry you're going through that. Stop talking to your animal. We've got stuff to get into.
So what else? Last of Us new episode. Did you catch it?
No, I haven't watched last night's.
Basically my favorite so far.
Okay.
It's amazing. I love it.
No more details, please. Yeah. No, I mean, what else? Not much. I've been feeling
what he means?
A little under the weather lately, so haven't been doing much. Did go play Magic for a little bit yesterday, though.
I also watched Cocaine Bear.
That's great. Did you like it?
Oh my god, dude! I fucking told you were gonna fall, and they're gonna claw my leg up. You lost your rights. Get out of there. All right, let's start the show. Have we started recording?
Yes.
Oh shit!
You know that. You're just saying this for comedic effect.
I'm cracking a funny.
Ha ha ha. Okay. I'm just gonna fucking pull the Band-Aid off. Hello, everyone. So here's what's up. Last week on the previous episode, we kind of glossed over the Danny stuff. I think if you haven't been paying attention, you can go look at Mark's Blame Game on my channel, and he kind of talks about it and also talks about some of the other sources you can go look at to find stuff. In glossing over it, I don't think that neither Mark nor I was attempting to like brush stuff under the rug or protect people or whatever, which is something that I've seen talked about a lot. Or the idea, I really liked, Mark, the idea that you are like Riot's payroll, so they told you not to talk about this or something like that. I think your blame game
always a classic.
Does a pretty good job of discussing it. Anyway, so at the time we didn't really talk about it too much. Part of it, I think people do not know the timelines in which content gets created versus when stuff comes out, because they watch it a couple days later. And so a great example of that is like I did an Inspired interview like a week and a half ago, before any of this stuff started being a conversation recently, and people in the comments were like, how dare you not ask about the daddy stuff? And I'm like, that's not how the flow of time works. So at the time, there'd been some stuff. He'd made a statement, I think, or he'd put out his tweet like right beforehand. And so we were kind of in a weird situation where just talking about it, it was kind of a weird thing where it was really just like one statement versus another. And so I figured we would probably have to talk about it a little bit more as more stuff came up. Anyway, clearly there's been more conversation, and I've been monitoring a lot of the online chatter, and my name has featured prominently in many different threads and on Twitter and all these different places, most notably about my past relationship. So for those of you that do not know, at the beginning of 2020, I got into a relationship with Nicole, the CEO of Evil Geniuses. I never really discussed like the end of that because there wasn't really much to talk about. COVID hit and people grow apart. And so that ended. Again, some people think that we're still dating, which is funny because she's, I think, announced that she's engaged to somebody. And I've dated other people since. But that ended towards the end of spring or early summer 2020. I don't exactly remember when. And it was fine. But so it's been, almost 3 years, I guess, since it was over 3 years since I announced that. And under a lot of people have the take that that has created a conflict of interest for me in covering all this. And I guess I kind of agree. So a lot of people have questioned my ethics and integrity on this topic or whatever. And I think the irony is, like, I don't really talk about my personal life or my dating life very much publicly. Mark knows all the details and has held me as I've cried.
It's so much messier than anyone would know.
People will actually believe you if you see that. No. Mark obviously knows a lot of stuff, but I don't. I tend to be pretty private about
Gafford.
My personal relationships, and the reason why, and people can go back and look at that video, and I don't know if anybody has because I just see really ill-informed comments on stuff. And the reason why I did was because specifically I thought it was important for people to know that this was an active conflict of interest at the time, and also just to have it like fully disclosed. I thought that was the ethical thing to do, even though, like, when you have been dating somebody for several weeks, it's not usually a very fun thing to go make a YouTube video about it, at least for me. So it was not something I did for fun or for entertainment or for views. It was specifically because I wanted to make sure that everything was above board. And so I think the irony now that people use this information that became public as sort of a question of my integrity or whatever, it's whatever. People are going to do whatever they're going to do. That being said, I've given a lot of thought on, what can I do? How can I approach this? Blah, blah, blah. And I think one of the challenges is that regardless of if I think I can give this a fair shake or not, one of the challenges is that people are not, it's kind of like perception creates reality. Like I cannot, a lot of people perceive this to be a conflict of interest. And I even admit that there is on some level, regardless of if I think I can do it justice or not, like it just becomes a thing where no one can sort of take what I say objectively because of this past relationship. And so I know this is really disappointing to some people, but I've just sort of decided that like if people don't honestly feel like I can be objective, then me covering the topic is only going to distract more from it and become this whole other conversation. And how much can we trust Travis on this and whatever. So look, I'm one person. This is a small industry. There are going to be times where I am conflicted. I can't always cover every single thing. And a lot of other people are talking about this topic. And again, Mark just did a blame game that's sitting on my channel, where he discusses the whole thing. So I think that there are other folks who can do this justice. And I appreciated that, Mark, you took a very sort of nuanced approach to it, which is the way I've always tried to approach any topic like this. So, but just so folks know, I think, hang on, let me read the conversation Mark and I had about the thing before it came out.
Uh-oh. Did I say anything troll?
No. I just so that people don't think that like I had a hand in it. Mark said, he said, you're out of space on the drive. And I said, that's right. And I said, you could just delete some stuff. Then he said, my blame game is on the Danny situation. And I sent a thumbs up. And then he said, quote, why is Travis Gafford such a coward? And I sent a second thumbs up. Then he linked it to me and said, want a sanity check for me? And I said, do I have to? I said, he said, I would appreciate it. Slap it at 2x speed as you poop. And then I just sent him a message and I said, I think it's fine. So like, I just want to be clear that there was not any editorial. I guess he gave me the opportunity to tell him like, how dare you or something like that. But like, I did not have a hand in crafting that blame game by any means. And I don't think Mark would ever let me tell him. I mean, Mark, you did not even ask me, or am I cool to put this out on your channel? You just went for it. Right?
I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, I'm making this. This is what I'm going to talk about. And like the sanity check is more like, you exist in the vacuum and sometimes you're like, does this what I'm saying here make sense?
Yeah. So. Yeah. So just so you guys know, there's not any meddling. I guess I could have just lied about all that stuff and constructed a very stupid conversation between Mark and I, but the truth is that's how stupid they are. So a couple other little pieces of housekeeping on the topic. I tend to not address sort of people trying to pick fights with me or like throwing, nails in my direction or something, because I can't do it anymore. After doing this for so many years, like getting into fights with people online is just exhausting and it makes me not want to do the job. So I just tend to not do that stuff. But I do want to just address this idea, this concept that I've seen over the years, and especially on this topic, that like Travis is not going to say anything because he's reliant on access to the teams and to Riot and all that stuff. I will admit that in the early years of my career, when I was less confident, I was much more nervous about critiquing orgs and Riot. And I think I still did. If people go back, they can find it, that I did. But I think I was still anxious to do it. And at times I was probably not as hard on folks as I maybe could have been. I think a couple different things that have changed are, one, the balance of power has shifted a lot, where I think Riot and the orgs just hold a little less sway and power. It's kind of like if a team blacklists me, and by the way, I've been blacklisted multiple times by different orgs in the past and have always had to negotiate that stuff behind the scenes. So the idea that like there's never been any ramifications or whatever, it's incorrect. But the idea that like if an org blacklists me at this point in time, I just tell them like, or I just sort of say, okay, well, good luck. It's not like you guys are making content. Like this is hurting you guys more than it's hurting me. And I think, the majority of my content has shifted away in the views and all that stuff, the impressions, away from interviews and more towards surprise tests, which while I need access, like, you know, like TSM didn't give me a player for a surprise test at one point in time last year, and I just took a TSM fan in and made fun of the fact that I didn't get a player. And then, like, you know, we have Hotline, we have Blame Game. There's not as much of a need for that access, even in a world where I was like, oh my gosh, I need this. And the other thing is, like, if it ever really got to a point where I was like, oh, I really can't talk about the things I want to talk about, I would just stop doing this job. Like, I don't want to go into it too much, but Mark and I have had numerous conversations over the past couple of years walking around my neighborhood, our neighborhood, about like how long I want to keep doing this, when will I stop doing it, and like I just don't like that's because it's somewhat linked to this other comment I see sometimes, which is like Travis only speaks out on things that affect his livelihood or his career. I'm like, yeah, I guess the general health of the LCS is something that affects my career, but also it's a very funny idea because like the first couple years of my doing this job, I just racked up like tremendous credit card debt. Like it's not like I'm like, well, I like got into this for all the money and the cush lifestyle, and now I must make sure the LCS doesn't die so that I could keep cashing those sponsor checks. Like I've done this long enough. I've done it for 12 years. I can really stop doing it whenever I want and just go do another job that is less filled with shitty Reddit comments and angry Twitter messages and everything every, I don't know, 6 to 12 months whenever somebody says something about me or whatever. And like, I'd be fine to do that. And so I like doing this job a lot. I like creating the content for all of you, like, especially in the past year as we've gotten out of COVID, like doing Hotline League Live and the tour and doing surprise test and being able to back Mark bringing back the Blame Game. Like, all this stuff has felt very, very good. I don't want to stop doing it. But the idea that, like, I have to do this because I don't have other options is, like, it's just a false premise. So I don't know. I just wanted to kind of finally address that because I've seen it some places before. I don't know. I've not been looking at Twitch chat, so I don't know how this is going. But the last little thing I will put here is, like, I also know that in having this much of a conversation and talking this much about myself around this topic, people might say, like, wow, the only thing Travis did was talk for like 8 minutes straight about himself in relation to all this stuff. Like, I am just trying to provide the context on kind of how we got here and where I'm at and why I am not talking as much about this stuff. Because even though I know what's totally going to happen is that in 5 minutes, we're going to be taking some other call. We're going to talk about something else, and somebody will show up in the chat. Someone will say, did they talk about the Danny stuff yet? And then somebody will be like, yeah, Travis said he's not going to talk about it. And then they'll be like, oh my God, that sucks. He's such an idiot. What a jerk. And then on Reddit, the same thing will happen when this gets posted there. No one will actually look at any of this context besides a few people, but I still feel like it's important to, like, speak from the heart on all of this. So I apologize to the folks who do want me to be able to talk about this stuff. This is just kind of the way that it goes whenever you're working in a small industry, is like, you know, you end up with conflicts. You know, that it started with me living with Peter, and people have taken issue with the way that I've covered stuff about his career. And like, sometimes you date people in the space, and it's just, that is the nature of the beast. And I apologize that it has created a situation where a lot of you do not feel like I can do this topic justice. But the only thing I can really do is, like, pay Mark to create the Blame Game and let him say whatever he wants to say there. And then I think the other thing, Mark and I were talking about this beforehand, and Mark, you were saying that you'd be down to take at least one call on the hot topic, right? Even if I'm not going to be really chiming in.
Yeah, I'm going to say a little bit after you just about the topic itself. So it's not like we're not talking about it at all. Because I did release the Blame Game, but I, of course, have follow-up thoughts, seeing people's reaction to it. And then, yeah, I want to get people on. Obviously, we're not just going to take, like, a ragey caller. I know there's a lot of anger out there right now. Some of it well placed, but that's not a conversation. So, like, where there are some people. I pulled one person about like just mental health in general. It doesn't even have to be specific to Danny, but I'm definitely down to take a Danny specific one if there's a take that actually is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. Anyway, I think I've said everything I'm going to say. I don't know if you have any. Do you want to tear me apart, Mark?
Yeah, you're a coward.
Yeah. As you said in our comments.
I have always said that to your face. You know, I've never shied away from that. No, I think I get where you're coming from a little bit. And for me, like I get some of the same thing about like, oh, you're a riot shill and whatever. And like I've always been pretty even keeled. Like I don't think you can watch most of my videos and see that I'm particularly angry about a topic. And like the things that make me angriest are like actually like gameplay things. Like if I'm ever the most unhinged I think I get is like when arguing about something in the actual game. But whenever it comes to like real serious life takes, I try to be pretty balanced. So like I think some people were like, "You're a riot shill," in response to my video, and it's like, I guess you probably don't watch enough of my content to see that's like usually the level of my outrage. I'm not a particularly outraged person, other than like getting tilted at food delivery on Twitter. But I will say a couple things. One, with regards to my video, I didn't like time it out or just like do any of that. I just spoke about what I thought would like be what I care the most about. And like, I think some people didn't think I went hard enough on like the specific individuals at the top at the tail end of that entire sequence. And like watching it back, it was like 2 minutes at the end of a 19-minute thing. So like, I can kind of see where that's coming from. And I didn't say some of that stuff at the beginning. So it was like kind of backloaded. But like the reason I spoke about the things I spoke about was because I didn't feel like that was getting as much representation in the conversation that was going on. There were a lot of people who were very angry, justifiably so. There are a lot of people who wanted like an investigation and like some sort of follow-up on this from Riot's angle. And like in that 2 minutes, I said I agreed with that and that there should be more done about this. I guess I didn't say it explicitly enough, but I thought I was being clever with like my Terry Pratchett quote about evil, about an org titled Evil Geniuses, and like my opinion on like how that action reflects the thought process that those people have at the top. You know, people like he didn't name and shame them, but like I did say Nicole, GamerDoc, Andrew Barton. Like I said their names. I just like I'm not the type of person who's going to go on a 50-minute rant video about specific people. Like that's just not the content I make. Nothing I make is usually longer than 15 minutes if it's not a fucking format video. So like I think I said my piece on it. But yeah, like I do think that like the reason I spoke so much about the other thing was because people haven't been talking about that. And a lot of people are concerned about the like, ooh, what will happen in the future with pros and stuff like that. And I see a lot of it. The reason I called them boogeymen is not to say that like to downplay their importance in that like the final straws that were destroying Danny's career potentially, but to say that like if you put all the blame on a couple key actors, you sometimes can miss the things that were leading up to that stuff. And that's why I spoke a lot more about just like the general ecosystem for League of Legends pros being pretty unsupportive of the level of stress that they are plunged into when they take this job. And I think that in terms of like preventing things like this in the future, yes, obviously you need to have repercussions for the people at the end of the line who are making this stuff happen. But I saw a lot of that conversation already going on the internet. And so I didn't feel like I needed to throw my voice behind that quite as much as I felt like talking about how this is more widespread than people probably realize. And not everyone will full on break down like Danny and step away from their career. But people like a Blaze Olive will take some time off on the split. Who knows if we ever see him again, to be honest, you know, or like just people who have downturns in their careers because things happen to them. And like, it's so widespread and pervasive that like, to me, while yes, there should be accountability for the people at EG, I think also to say like, hey, this is probably more rampant than a lot of you realize. Like, I thought there could be more good done there, which is why that was the majority of my video. So like, yeah, I get that. Like some people want me to come down harder, but like the entire internet is coming down on those people. They're doing a great job, you know, whatever. I felt like for me, the place that I could add the most to the conversation was this other angle. So,
I mean, I appreciate the decision to go broader, in part because I think, you know, stepping away from the specific situation, as I said, since it's hard for me to speak to it, I think that people, it is ironic that I think if you go to Reddit right now and you see a lot of the people outraged by this, they are also the same people who will go talk about how lazy LCS pros are. or how cush their job is, or how much they're getting paid, and like this is just the way that a lot of the stuff goes. And there's a kind of interesting dichotomy there. And I even saw a comment that was calling out you and I, Mark, about and other people who are critical of pros or who are putting a lot of pressure on these guys. And you know, I think we try to be pretty balanced with the way that we approach that, especially in comparison to some. But I think, you know, it is important for everybody to recognize the amount of stuff that these guys give up in pursuing their goals. And yeah, there are some folks who are probably not putting in the hours as much as others, but sort of the broad brush strokes that a lot of us use whenever, you know, I make fun of Champions Queue being dead or stuff like that. I think a lot of that needs to always be, you always need to have in the back of your mind, at least as you're going through those thoughts on what a lot of these guys are, how hard they are pushing and what they are doing and the stresses that are underneath them. So it's I think hopefully a wake up call for a lot of folks.
Well, that's also why I didn't want to like point the finger at like, oh, Reddit causes the stress or commentators like me cause the stress. Because of course we all cause the stress on some level, but it's hard to believe that there's, for some of these teams, no one on staff who can help, given the pervasiveness of, like I said, anxiety-induced reactions, psychological or physiological or whatever. And like, I think the other thing too is like a lot of people are like, you should have, you know, you didn't go attack the people who were the cause of it. It's like, I genuinely think that people do think there's like 3 people at the end, but if you read the accounts, Danny was wanting to quit in playoffs before the upper management came in and was like, no, you have to play. And like, he was already broken down at that point. And that's why I care so much about like the steps that got him to that point, not just the people who then like ground him to dust. Like both those are bad. And there's just so much more attention on the latter half, that like, do you really need one more person to make a 10-minute video where I'm like, rah, it's bad. I agree. It's bad. This should be investigated. Like, I don't think that actually helps, despite what people might think. It's probably cathartic for people who are upset to hear another voice say that. But like, I'm not here for your catharsis. I'm here to like try and do what I think is actually the most beneficial thing in that situation. Which may not align with what people think is the most beneficial. We might have different opinions on that, clearly, but that's okay.
And we are starting to veer into areas where I feel like I can't, you know, I can't talk more about it because people will be, again, we talked about this. I need to recuse myself from the situation. But I think we can get into calls now. I see people saying, let's start the show.
There's other stuff to talk about. 100 Thieves fired their coach. Oh my God, what's going on with them? If you look at the playoff picture right now, Team Liquid and 100 Thieves are on the outside. TSM, CLG, and Golden Guardians are all in the fucking playoffs. What the hell? There's a lot of other stuff to talk about too.
Yeah. I think Team Liquid stuff is particularly interesting. Where are they going? We only have a couple weeks left of the regular season. So I think things are not looking good for Dignitas, for instance, Mark.
No, I think they're going to rally.
Yeah. Are they statistically eliminated at this point in time?
I don't think so, because they can get, if they win their next 5 games, they can get to 6 and like maybe force a tie against TSM or something.
Okay, so that's the rally that you're going for.
I think so.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Any second now.
Anyway, so we will talk about all this different stuff. There's even a Reddit thread about if Doublelift is performing average or poorly or whatever since his comeback. I do think 100 Thieves is, from at least the game topic issue, is a particularly interesting discussion to have on this show. So anything else that I'm forgetting, Mark?
I'll
admit that it was hard to focus on other topics this week for me. I was kind of knee deep in all this. I can't remember. Twitch chat might have some stuff for us.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of Twitch chat, so we can fucking milk them for topics. If I'm not here to bring them, why are we priming them? They should just do our job for us. Aurelian Soul, sleep.
You're not big on the Aurelian Soul stuff.
I love the Aurelian Soul, but like, God, we're gonna talk about that Hotline League. Catching up with Double Up was great. I agree, but it's not a topic. Upset and Vitality, that's the wrong region. Come on, Twitch chat.
Yeah. All right. You've pulled some folks already?
Yeah, I got a lot of people in there.
Oh, you're good. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even notice. Okay, off mark goes to grab the first caller. Thank you to, and I'm sorry that couldn't get to those folks or to these subs earlier, but I had some more important things. Penguin Buddy, Swede Be Good, Lil Bonaparte, Fish Sticks for 3 years, No Foolin', Alice RN, and Notorious Bubble. We got some more coming up, but first we got the Dixie Cup here. Dixie Cup, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that 100 Thieves will win out the remainder of the split, even though they've gone on some past loss streaks. Mainly because I think that they have put tenacity on a lot of carries, and he has narrowly lost lane a lot of times, and it's been really, really hard for the team to kind of play around that, along with, I feel like bot lane is the most important role in the game currently. I think games are won and lost depending on bot lane primarily. And I think what 100 Thieves needs to pivot to is, rather than this past week when they drafted 3 losing lanes and got absolutely choked out by Cloud9, to draft 2 winning lanes in mid and bot, put Closer on a perma-ganking jungler, and tenacity on weak side. And with the amount of catch-up XP in the jungle, I think Closer should, and I've seen this in LPL and LCK VODs here and there, where they just perma-clear bot and then gank bot over and over and over again. And with the amount of catch-up XP, even if you're not farming your top camps, like, it doesn't matter when it comes down later in the game. And so that's my take. I think 100 Thieves will win out.
I pulled this because it got a lot of emotes in Discord, and I can see that it's having a similar effect in Twitch chat. And
Positive or negative emotes?
Both. A lot of. We're in the positivity train here now, all right? We talked about some serious stuff. Now it's positivity poro the rest of the way, just like we sat Meteos down on that. I'm going to sit Travis and I down.
All right. Mark, why don't you start us off here?
Why don't I start us off? What's there to say? This guy's 100% right. 100 Thieves about to rally.
I remain skeptical. I mean, I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see how the coach change works. I don't know if you have another coaching call or anything like that, but like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just have another one that's like just about 100 Thieves struggling, being bad for the LC. It was good for the LCS.
Oh yeah. Okay, so then we can talk a little bit about the coach stuff. I mean, who was it? I was talking to somebody and they were like, "Yeah, this change reads to me as like, well, we're not going to bench Double Lift and Peter, so this is what we're doing." Or sorry, Double Lift and Bjergsen. I don't know. I worry. Let me ask you this, Mark. Do you think that there's any merit to the idea that Team Liquid and 100T both have very similar issues in terms of they just can't seem to come together, even if you don't look, even if it is hard to look at any one single part of the roster and find like a problem, right? Because I don't think in either of these situations you can point to one player, one lane, one role and say, well, that's the reason why they're losing, or like their bot lane's just failing hard or something like that. It just feels like both of them, to me at least, feel very lost, and you never really know what you're going to get whenever they hit the rift. And I find it ironic that it's like very similar across both these teams, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I think both these teams, there's a number of like things you can talk about, and it's not going to boil down to any one thing. And it's not quite like Dignitas, where there was like one side that was clearly underperforming much harder. Like Tenacity has had his up and down games, Busio has had his up and down games. Everyone kind of has. On the coaching front, I will say, like I said this to Jat immediately as I saw them lock in their day 2 draft, and I was like, they have a coaching problem. And then this week their coach was fired. And it's not necessarily that he was a bad coach, but it's like, if you have an effective coach, you never have those drafts back to back. again, that might just mean that the players are too strong-headed and they're not listening, and they're just like bullying the coach out or whatever it is. You can argue if that makes you a good coach or not, but like you have a late game all scaling draft, and then you immediately pivot to like everyone wants authority in their lane, they want agency, they want playmaking, and all three lanes suddenly draft the complete other identity. It's like clearly nothing has been working in your scrims. Clearly you have no idea of how you want to play the game. And clearly the coach does not have like the authority to be like, guys, this is an overreaction. We need to stay a little bit more emotionally balanced about what's going on in our games and stuff like that. Like clearly it's just like the players knee-jerk reacted to how awful 3 losing lanes feel. And so like as soon as I saw that draft, I was like, their coaching is not working out right now. And then lo and behold, coach was fired.
So does this give you much confidence then?
No, I agree kind of with your point about like you don't have an obvious change to make and like things aren't working.
Yeah.
And so you're like the coach is gone. I don't know. Maybe he is a bad coach. Like I don't know Kaz personally. Like I mean,
to your point, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad coach. It could just be that he was an ineffective coach for this roster.
Like I think Bjerg and double lift and like,
I think Gyoto was a great coach for Immortals. I would say he seemed fairly ineffective with Team Liquid last year. Like sometimes it is just a chemistry thing, just like it is with anything. But I don't know. It is at this point in time. I worry Dixie Cup that Hunter T and Team Liquid, again, to make the comparison, are in the same boat in that there's so little time left for these guys to figure it out, and there's going to be some sort of weird confidence issue, right? Like, how do you reset as you're going into week 7 and you've got 2 weeks left, you've got 5 games left? How do you get to a better place? I haven't looked at their strength of schedule yet. I guess I should do that.
Their strength of schedule is not hard. The hardest opponent, I think, is EG. But I feel confident with them having Doublelift and Bjergsen and even Closer on the team and running it with 2 rookies. Like, they're not ones to just shy away from competition. You know, they're not going to be like, oh, man, it was a hard split. Oh, well, you know. They're like, they always give it their all. I do think that they haven't drafted, and maybe that is a coaching problem, to their strengths necessarily. They've just been like, we're going to scale and we're going to play better late game. But I think the nature of the game right now is that's not as effective all the time, especially in the LCS. I feel like the LCS is about as strong as it can get right now. And in the past years, like, it's competitive. Like, we don't have 4 or 5 3-10 teams, you know? So I don't know. I feel it's a little bit of copium for sure, but with their strength of schedule, I think they can beat Golden Guardians. They can beat Dig, Immortal, EG, and TSM, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the 100 Thieves situation makes it hard. And people in Twitch are talking about Unforgiven for double lift. It's true that Unforgiven's like smurfing the academy scene right now, and like you can debate how close they are in terms of like who's the better performer. But I don't know if you slot Unforgiven in and then it suddenly fixes all these other problems, which is to Travis's point that like a coaching change might not do that either. And if you're like gonna try and fix things, it might need to be like a bit of a retooling in the off season, where you can make multiple changes as well as give them some breathing room to like actually practice versus just like force.
When you say off season, you mean like the mid season break, right?
Yeah, excuse me, like the between splits.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I do see some similarities in like the TL 100 Thieves situation, but I also think that this is like pure cope. I know it's pure cope, but like when I watch Team Liquid, I at least see things going well. Even though 100 Thieves beat Team Liquid, that was like more that Team Liquid has lost every single game that way, more than 100 Thieves has won games that way. Like, they took an all scaling comp versus Team Liquid, who has the worst late game in the league, like the worst team fighting. They constantly throw leads, and they did it again. I don't really think 100 Thieves did anything right, and like it's not really repeatable, which is why they're like 1-7 in their last 8. And Team Liquid will get leads. They do have good early games sometimes. They are an absolute travesty train wreck in the mid to late game.
We don't use that word,
but like I use it all the time now. The more you tell me not to, I'm a child. Anyways, the point is, there's some similarities, but I do think there's some differences. And like, I can see for Team Liquid the good and what they're trying to do. For 100 Thieves, they look totally visionless on how they want to approach the game. And maybe a honeymoon phase will kick in with the coaching change. Who knows? Maybe Nuke Duck is going to crush it. I don't know.
So you have more confidence in TL than 100 T, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, like, their games, even when they lose, don't look quite as hopeless as the 100 Thieves games.
Rough. Anyway, thanks. Thanks so much, Dixie Cup, for the call. Sounds like Mark is not on board, and I gotta say I'm pretty skeptical too. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, I'll shout out Alienware, and then shout out my boys that get on and play League with me every night. Moved from Ohio to LA, so Amer, Brett, Chris, Connor, Brennan, and Brooks. They keep our friendship alive through this game, so I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
All right. On to the next caller, and then we'll take a quick break. Thank you to Notorious Bubble, Jay Schroed, G Joker, or Gioker? It's Gioker. I think I know who you are. I believe I know who you are. Game Over Dub, Don Nardo, PJ Salt, the one and only Corbin for 1 year, Team Liquid Man, Magnarius, Triumvirus, Director Donut, Ilian Labard, My Beautiful Banana, Evil Trenton. All right, War Penguin 555 is here. War Penguin, where are you calling from?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Okay, what do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about that 100 Thieves being bad is amazing for the LCS, but only gameplay-wise.
Okay, all right, go ahead and expand on this.
All right, so the main issue in the past with the LCS was the whole do nothing and lose craze, it seemed like, with TSM and then a little bit with Team Liquid. And the fact that another do nothing and lose team is struggling right now is good in terms of it looks like the LCS is finally moving past that kind of gameplay.
And then you said only in terms of game. Is there like a way that it's not bad?
Probably for like viewership or something.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. So I admit that I did not, I guess, read this. Well, okay. Actually, you know what? He didn't say it was only gameplay related to his take. He said 100 Thieves being bad is amazing for the LCS.
Yeah, I kind of clickbaited you a little. Sorry.
You fucking clickbaited me. I thought this was going to be about like how, because some people legitimately think like, I've seen the argument that like, oh, TSM being bad is good for the league. I think that is demonstrably false when your popular players are not succeeding. That is like provably bad from a viewership perspective. So you did clickbait me here. I unfortunately kind of agree with you that like I don't want to see a 3 losing lanes draft like winning games.
Mark, do you think that? Okay, well, obviously yes, but do you think that they are a do nothing and lose team? Is that an accurate depiction of them? I mean, because what was it, Sven? No, it was Blabber who in the post game interview was like, "Oh yeah, we just expect that they're not going to do anything until late game or whatever."
That's where I got my idea for the take from, was the Blabber interview.
Yeah.
Cite your sources. We need MLA citations on your takes if you're copying other people. So they're sort of a do nothing and lose team, but I think it's because they don't have anything else working. I don't think they want to play that way. And I think you could see in their second game this week how they tried to do something else and they just like fell flat on their face. It's like someone shoots the starting gun and they just like eat shit off the blocks, you know? And
like, an interesting analogy, Mark.
It's a race, you know, they go bang, begin, and they just like don't even get off the ground.
Yeah.
You know, it's like science class and you built your little rocket and it just exploded as soon as the charge went off. So like, I think that they defaulted to a style that could win in late game if the enemy team made mistakes because they were unable to like make their own shit happen and find their own consistent style. I think it was kind of like a safety measure kind of thing. And like you can see what happens when they try and be more proactive because they don't really have a good sense of how they want to play the game right now. So I don't think that they are like intentionally a do nothing and lose team, but they kind of are right now because they don't have another option.
Do you think, sort of setting their gameplay aside, do you think it would have been better for 100T if they hadn't had like a decent start? Because I almost feel like in the beginning, like everybody's like, okay, it's gonna take a while, like Devil's coming back out, blah 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 blah, and then you end up in this situation where it's like everybody got excited and then they crashed and burned.
I mean, like, obviously, if you flipped the beginning to now and they started shit, then yeah, there's more positive momentum. But I don't think like just starting bad is somehow better for a team's morale. Like, it's if you went because they're 1-8, they're 1-7 in the last 8. Like, if they just started their split with one win,
Are they really 1-7? Oh my god.
Yeah, they literally.
I know they went on the
they
5-game.
lost.
That's right, because they went on the 5-game lose streak, and then it just
They went on a
continued.
5-game lose streak. They beat Team Liquid, and then they lost 2 more games.
Yeah. Yikers.
It's a big yikers. Like, if you just started like that does not feel good and would not lead to a better season.
Yeah. That's fair. See, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that it feels pretty doomed now, because I just don't know how you recover from it. Maybe they're going to go on some fucking mad tear, but I mean, they do face Golden Guardians, who maybe are imposters. I'm sure we'll talk about them later, and Dig this weekend. So, I don't know.
Anyways, we got clickbaited. I ultimately agree with the clickbait, or like the real take, not the clickbait.
Thanks, Warpenguin, for the clickbait. Anything you want to shout out?
Let's see. Shout out to Alienware and shout out to Danny. Regardless of what happened and what didn't, he does deserve the support from everyone.
Very good. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break right now to talk about Alienware. We love Alienware. I'm going to be doing the show on the road next week, which Mark and I have to talk about. I'm going to UBC to speak at their university this Saturday, actually. So if you're up in Vancouver, that's cool. I'm going to head down to Seattle for a little bit and hang out with my pal Bonnie and some other folks. But the fantastic thing about going on the road is that I am confident that I will have what I need to produce the show, because I'll have my Alienware computer with me, my X17. They have a new X14, a new X17. They've got some beautiful stuff hitting right now. Actually, X16. They've got some beautiful stuff over at alienware.com/Travis. Go check them out. I know a lot of you guys have actually purchased the ultra-wide monitors that they sell, and I'm using one of them right now. It's beautiful, the 34, the OLED. I just go check out their products. They're fantastic. I hear from so many people who purchase from them and really appreciate that you guys do that, because when you purchase through alienware.com/Travis, it actually directly supports the show. So thank you so much for sponsoring the show, Alienware. Thank you all for checking out their products. Really appreciate their support. And yeah, time to get back into calls. We've got quite a few more. We had a slow start to the... Speaking of slow starts, we had a slow start to the show, but we're getting into all these calls. So
I'm a slow person.
Thank you to Evil Trenton, My Beautiful Banana. Evil Trenton gifted 5 subs. Ballistics. Ian is Metal. Puprup gifted 5. King Manchi, and then also gifted 5. Extra Good Games. Arv. Prometheus. Joshi P. Swoosh the Mighty. Omormar and Discord Rivals. Oh, and Poggles, Woggies, and Swede Be Good. Thank you for the 5 gifted. Weebeful, Sunflower Sen, and finally, 43 months, Raging Pianist. Thank you, Raging Pianist. As always, your support is phenomenal. All right. You said, are Mark and Jet competing for Grandma outfits this week? Yeah, fantastic. Mark should be back here any second. We're just waiting for him to pop back into the channel. And he will be here with a person, and then I won't have to fill. Normally, he shows up a lot faster than this. What is he doing? Anybody? Oh, I'm going to open some magic cards after the show, if the vibe is right. So please stick around. There he is, finally. My God.
Sorry, there's drama.
In the waiting room?
No, not really drama. Just like people being like, there's people over and I can't, this is going to be loud. I need like 20 minutes.
Okay. ezrasmiles is here. ezrasmiles, where are you calling from?
Hey, friends. I'm calling from around Tampa, Florida.
Around Tampa, Florida. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take for tonight is that VicLa should not make an all-pro team because he's not currently, or he's not a top 3 mid in the LCS this season.
Okay. Well, I just agreed to vote in these things, so it's time for you to convince me. Go ahead and let me know. Why?
So I think a few things. I think it's really easy to look impressive on a winning team or the team that's currently in first place, and I think a lot of his teammates are amazing. And I think VicLa is a really good player, but I think some of the other mids this season really stand out, and there's just a few really good mids that are doing a lot for their teams, even if they're in lower spots in the standings. So my personal top three, just looking at some of the mids, are, and not in any order, but Jojo, Maple, Gory, I would rank all higher than VicLa is currently performing.
Hasn't Jojo had a fairly inconsistent split?
Ezra? But he hasn't been that bad recently. He's kind of dunking on kids recently.
Okay.
Yeah, and with Jojo, I'd say, he won Player of the Week last week, I think, and he has been inconsistent. But I think a lot of people, I was listening to the LCS the show, and they were talking about how Jojo makes a lot of, or I might even be quoting Mark, but he was saying something like that Jojo sometimes makes inconsistent NT or throw plays, halfway through the game, but he just has one of the best laning phases and really one of the best late game, like team fight kind of carry potential and things for mid.
I wonder why I like this take so much. Is because it's my own take, kind of.
Great.
I will say that
just become an echo chamber now.
Angle. No. Well, this started with the whole VicLa thing, so I didn't.
Well, I think that's what, as the callers after almost 5 years of us doing the show, have gotten very smart at packaging their takes. Because Ezra's like, I'm going to talk about how there's these 3 good mid laners. How do I get this on? It's because VicLa doesn't deserve to be there.
No, I think VicLa just is getting a ton of hype, and I think he is good, but I just don't think he's as good as all the hype is making him out to be.
Yeah, who were the 3 that you said?
So I think there's tons of good ones, but the 3
Jojo,
I put in front of him,
Maple.
Jojo, Maple, and Gory.
Yeah. That I could see that. I mean, I think the Jojo stuff is interesting because he's been inconsistent, but I think if he can keep up this performance, it'll be good. Gory, I feel like people are feeling really good about, and I feel like Gory and Maple are really responsible for their teams performing above expectation. So that's a fair thing to say, because you pointed out that it's easy to look good on a good team, much harder to look good on a team that people don't think is supposed to be good. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like the Gory came back down to earth a little bit with the rest of Golden Guardians this last weekend. I think VicLa has been struggling a little bit more in the second round robin. I think Jojo has actually cleaned up a lot of his problems. I think Maple's been pretty consistent throughout, maybe one of the more consistent mid laners this whole split. I think it is up for debate. I don't think I'd knock VicLa out of the top 3 yet, remembering some of his really good games earlier on. But it's less secure than like if you just looked at that snapshot in the middle of the season when 3 of us had VicLa as our all-pro mid. Like that was very close to a lot of us putting other people in there to begin with, and then this changes everything. People talk about Jojo like inting his face off, right? He's only got 6 ISO deaths. He's like tied for what would be like 4th, 5th most ISO deaths. A Blaze Olive had more. VicLa has more at 12 for a Blaze Olive. VicLa and Jensen have 10 each. Then Harry's at 6 and Jojo's at 6. So it's not like he doesn't randomly never die, but it's also like kind of overstated how bad it is. They're just like, there were some really egregious ones in the first round robin, and they kind of happened like really close together, which makes it sick in your mind. But I actually think he's been fucking disgusting for like the last 2 weeks now. So I'm hot on Jojo. I put him as my all pro right now if the split ended, and then like probably Gory too. And then it's a tough argument between VicLa and Maple maybe or something. But like I would probably still give it to VicLa. But I think it shows how much this can change with 5 games left. I think it could change some more as well.
Yeah.
Jojo can lose you games with his ints. Plenty of mids lose their team games by not being able to get leads. You just don't see it as losing the game because they didn't like fucking run it. But like, what do you think the first 20 minutes of the game is for?
Ezra, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, of course. Shout out Alienware for supporting you guys. Shout out you guys. And then again, I'm a huge TSM fan, so shout out TSM and all their content creators and Boogie for just his amazing streams.
Yeah.
Thanks all.
Thanks for the call.
Shout out to M&S as well, because someone talking about him. I think he probably doesn't have. He's only going to get half the split, which is it's hard for me to put in someone who only plays half the split unless they're like actual god tier. And he's been a little like he had one struggle game, 3 good games now or something. But yeah, I just don't think M&S will get enough reps to get one. But I think he has the skill in summer or something to get one easily.
Mark, Papa Smithy in chat, maybe defending his boys, says VicLa and JoJo have the best laning stats in the league.
They do. Harry is right up there too, actually, in a lot of them. To be fair, but I think the VicLa and JoJo are the best laners.
Do you think so?
Harry played a lot of Azir, who's just a strong laner in a lot of like melee matchups and can shove and get leads. I don't think his laning has always been impeccable.
Do you think if VicLa cares about getting, I don't know, all pro, do you think he should be worried right now?
I don't know about worried, but it's like you gotta have some good games again for us soon. What have you done for me lately? Kind of syndrome, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, we can move on to the next call then.
All right, let's go move on to the next call then.
Thank you to brilliant handoff, Mark. Thank you to Warden Winter, Jake Young, and Ari Waddle for the subs. Really appreciate it. Papa Smithy in the chat says VicLa needs to clean up his play, though. Confident he'll earn the plaudits. What's a plaudit? I'm going to look it up. An expression of praise or approval. I've never heard this before. Fascinating.
Papa Smithy's here. It's time to continue bashing FlyQuest.
Boom. The GreatClockwyrm is here. GreatClockwyrm, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Fairfax, Virginia, up in Northern Virginia near DC.
Fairfax, Virginia. And you've called in before, right?
Yeah, I have. It's been I think a year or so, but I've called in 3 or 4 times before.
I remember it just like it was yesterday. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I have a distinctive name. Yeah. My take is that, I'm sorry, Papa Smithy, big fan, but FlyQuest success looks extremely meta-dependent to me. I'm seeing mirrors of 2020 C9 where they have a talented roster for sure, but I do not expect if there's a meta change, things shift away from bot, things shift away from early dragons, early ganks, that they will continue to see same level of success in late playoffs or summer.
Spicy. Wow. It's interesting to see like the FlyQuest hype train start to crash. I don't know. You lose to evil geniuses, and I guess
that game was
what happens.
Not great look from them. I'll say, like, I'll let you guys talk, but that was another thing that just made me. I'm a big FlyQuest fan, big FlyQuest fan, and I've been a FlyQuest fan way longer than the Prince, bandwagon that a lot of fans are on right now. But yeah. Anyways,
I have a spicy Ayla interview that I will air after the show, after I do like an 8-minute bounty, if people stick around for it. But that EG. I think EG FlyQuest is going to become a real rivalry. In the league, so.
Can you leak some of the spice for me to react to right now?
Yeah, I mean, Ayla basically was like, I was like, how much of this is banter? And he's like, it's not banter. Like he legitimately does not like Vulcan, and
yes,
and I don't think was happy with the loss. I mean, obviously, players are not happy with losses, but I think he was.
Vulcan feels good after that. Yeah,
I mean, did you see their handshake? Like,
yes, it was like a
stink eye.
Yeah. It was good. Dude, that's what I was waiting.
Stone face, like, good game.
Yes, no, and it was like one. It was not like an up and down shake. I feel like it was just like they grabbed and then boom. And I was like I was so clued in because after this Ven thing, I feel like you got to pay attention to like handshake potential.
Yeah.
So.
Oh god, everyone was watching that handshake, and I would say like it was like a subtle payoff. Like it was good. I appreciated the way that Vulcan and him were just like stone faced, no love, clearly.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't really understand. Like, this feels like it kind of came out of nowhere, but I'm here for it, I guess.
Well, did Did this all happen between last episode and this one? Do we not cover it at all?
No, I don't think we might not have talked about it previously because I don't think people really understood. There was like a little bit of Twitter banter, and then it started to become clear that like this was becoming a real thing. So
yeah, because I guess it happened last 2 weeks ago at this point. It started with like I think Vulcan initially made the joke about
after the dig loss. I think it was something after.
No. It started with the first FlyQuest loss, with Ayla coming back or something.
yes, because he defended. He was like, "Oh yeah, they need to bring, Winsome.
Bring Winsome back or something."
Yeah,
and then Ayla responded with like, "Oh, bring Smoothie back or whatever." And then C9 lost to Dignitas, and then Vulcan did his whole like, imagine Ayla typing this out full well, knowing that like his team doesn't need him, a nightmare and all that stuff. And then everyone was like, oh my God, like the dig loss like has unhinged Vulcan. And like, it was clear that they were under each other's skin.
Yes.
Like I think it's pretty easy to tell when it's memes and when it's like, man, fuck this guy. And this was so clearly some like actual beef of them like talking shit. And it's just like, it's been kind of consistently back and forth since then.
I really appreciated whoever decided.
EG lost to Diggs. I said the wrong thing. I sometimes pretend Vulcan.
Yeah, C9 would never lose to Diggs.
Yeah,
I was very much enjoying the graphics package that was like Ayla and Vulcan settle it tomorrow or something like that. Whenever you guys were promoting, did you see that, Mark? That the broadcast ran that.
The jib jab thing, I guess that's what it's called, like the heads that speak.
No, I didn't see that. There was during the game, there was like a pop up. You know where it pops up and it'll be like voices of the thing or whatever. Yeah. And they were like, tomorrow they settle it or whatever, or maybe it was I don't know. I forget when they aired it, but I was like, damn, we doing this. So
I'm so for it. Like I was so engaged that game to see like and like the fucking hook on the fountain to kill Ayla one more time. Like, oh, that was chef's kiss by Vulcan.
Didn't
like,
Vulcan like randomly box in the river just to get damage on Ayla like halfway through the game at one point too? Like that was screaming like, oh, I want to kill you so bad.
Yeah, you could tell that there was beef between those two. It felt so good and like, I love it. It's not a bad thing. It's okay,
Yeah.
Now when they play in playoffs, assuming they do, it's going to be great.
Okay, so wait, what was the take again?
The original take was like, I do not have great faith in like
FlyQuest
the
Outer.
I didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah, we got distracted by the beef.
I think I see 2020 C9 in this FlyQuest was my take basically.
I am more skeptical, but I'm curious what Mark says.
I'm pretty happy with this team. I feel like enough of the players have shown meta resilience that I'm not that worried. I think, like, for example, Spica is actually more of a carry player than a tank player. Yeah, I think he's just doing his duty. Impact's clearly more of a tank player, so if a tank meta comes back, it's whatever. And we've seen him do fine in carry metas before. So, like, I don't think they need to worry about their top side of the map that much. I think 80 carry is 80 carry. I really don't think it matters very much. And, like, the meta concern would be more, like, it's not as bot lane focused, but that doesn't seem to be going away anywhere. Like, Freak is absolutely not going to nerf 80 carries. They're going to be relevant. So unless it goes, like, full utility, Jhin, Ashe, Varus meta, like, I think Prince will be relevant. I guess the only concern would really be, like, mid lane a little bit, because I do think VicLa will have a much better time on an aggressive carry, melee, assassin-y type meta than, like, a slower paced one. But I don't think he's, like, incompetent in the other meta. So, like, I think they are pretty resilient. If it goes to, like, tank tops, carry jungle, they're fine. If it's, like, double tank top, or, you know, top and jungle tank, or what, you know, like, whatever the variation is, I think most of the team can deal with it. What do you, Travis? What do you think of their meta read, huh?
What does Travis Gafford think of FlyQuest meta read? That's what everybody's asking themselves.
That's what I listen to this show for.
Yes.
Is that? I bet you could poll Twitch chat. I'm going to poll Twitch chat /poll. Do you watch for Travis meta convo? What are you playing right now in ARAM? You playing much ARAM?
I'm not playing much ARAM. I played Wild Rift ARAM. I haven't been on my computer much. I've been mostly sulking in my bedroom. That's what my life has been lately. Watching Magic the Gathering YouTube videos.
Well, you better start doing some meta-analysis videos because the people are hungry for it. Look at this poll.
I'm voting yes. That would be a good
75
April
times.
Fool's joke.
Travis, I voted yes.
That would be a good April Fool's joke. Is just me putting. I mean, I think we talked about that last year. How I was gonna do the whole blame game. Yeah.
I need to give you one of my scripts. I'll write a script for one of them for April Fools and just give it to you.
Yeah. Welcome back to the blame game. It's me, Travis Gafford.
I don't do that intro anymore. I killed that intro to go faster. Now I just go right into the topic. Analytics, retention rates, speed, first 15 seconds.
All right. Anyway, what do I think of FlyQuest meta read? Well,
yeah, people want to know.
I think that they've shown a great deal of meta resiliency across their players. I think Prince is going to continue to be able to succeed because I don't think Freak is going to be nerfing 80 carries anytime soon, which just means that he, as one of the most dominant players on that team, is going to be able to do a lot to keep them winning. And so I think that
I didn't think it would be so shameless.
This is going to continue to be a great team, and I think they're going to continue to do really well.
The Freak
is this
a
Chat
FlyQuest
GPT?
man. Papa paid Freak to go to the balance team. It's confirmed.
Yeah. Thank you for all your support, Twitch chat. Okay. Thank you so much to our caller as well. I really appreciate you calling in, GreatClockwyrm. We'll see how things go. I think generally people expect FlyQuest will do well. So if they don't and they collapse, then you will have a better meta read than I will. And I guess that's the way it goes. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, two things real quick. One, Travis, I'm like a big Magic player, and I'm like really like fascinated by this current set. I just want to say justice for Nissa. Yeah, justice for Nissa. I was devastated. Justice for Nissa. And real quick, I went to the Houston finals with my dad last year because it happened on my birthday. And my dad, he's like an old StarCraft player. He's an old WoW player, but he doesn't really get into League much. But him seeing EG pop off, him seeing Danny pop off was like a big reason why he started getting into like the LCS and stuff. And I just want to say, like, Danny, if you're listening, Danny, anything, we love you. You at least got my 50-year-old boomer dad to be interested in the LCS because that Jinx Pinnacle was insane. We love you, buddy. Best of luck in the future. Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. Shout out to Alienware. Shout out to all your other sponsors, whatever they are. But yeah,
it's only Alienware so these days. Thanks, GreatClockwyrm. We'll catch you next time.
You guys have a good one. Yeah.
I love it when people get excited about Magic. I'm thinking actually here. Somebody message Mark. You can leave. Go get the next caller. I'm going to go if I wanted to play either Commander or Draft with people at Mox Boarding House in Bellevue next week. Well, like on Sunday, I think is probably when I would try to do it. Would anybody be down? I might go and just be like, hey, who here wants to go? Oh, Mox Seattle is bigger? Should I go to Mox Seattle? I didn't know there were two. I knew there's Portland. I thought the Bellevue one was the one. Bellevue sucks to get to? Okay. So is the Seattle one better? That's what people say? Yeah, I'm going to Seattle because I'm going to Vancouver to speak at UBC, and then I've got a bunch of friends in Seattle that I'm going to go visit. Anyway, Thumper's here. Thumper, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Las Vegas, Nevada. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about your previous interview with John Needham, and I believe it was Naz, the woman.
Yes, Naz.
You haven't done a follow-up interview. He said he would do one every month, and you guys would do a mid-split interview.
Yes. So I got an email last Monday, which I have not replied to, which I need to reply.
Travis, the ghost of Gafford. That's what we all call him.
The subject line is follow-ups regarding John and Naz. And what are you currently, the body says, what are you currently thinking regarding your follow-ups? Timing, location, content, etc. So I want to be clear. That is on me for not replying to this email yet. Honestly, as I've been thinking through it, I feel like the better path is to probably wait to try to schedule that interview till the gap between spring finals and MSI, assuming that they are available around that time, because I think I don't know. I'd be interested to hear from you, Caller. What are your thoughts and what is your take on the LCS so far, the split?
Well, I think the changes they've made to like the lounge and stuff, I do like that, except some of the cringe bits.
Am I cringe?
Well, that screaming one you did, it was pretty bad. But
Fuck yeah.
but the majority of them are pretty good.
Mark just gets up from his chair and walks away.
No, I'm getting more water.
Yeah. No, it's okay, Mark. If you need to take a minute.
Dude, this guy ran me out of the room. Fuck this guy.
No, it's fine, Mark. It's fine. You take all the time you need.
No. I thought he was gonna keep going about his opinion on the LCS.
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
But I do think
Mark is recusing himself from this conversation. Sorry, go ahead, Thumper.
It has been improving, but I always see the where's Dash chat, and we haven't really seen him except for that clip he did, skydiving or whatever.
Yeah, he did the skydiving show. I think they're doing another. I've heard that they're doing another. So it sounds like you think the show is getting better.
But not viewership
wise. Yeah. So
we are down like 130,000 from peak.
Well, not last year.
Is weird.
We were definitely not.
Was 240,000.
Oh, for peak, yeah. But normally peak is during finals, so I think it's a little early to say that. I think if I was to interview them right now, it's kind of a weird situation because I'm not saying I couldn't do it, but like I don't know what the takeaways are from spring yet. Viewership, quite frankly, is not as bad as I thought it was going to be for weekday changes. That being said, they position this as though viewership would go up, and clearly it has only gone down. So I want to almost kind of want to wait because it's only about, 4 weeks out or so that we'd have to, or that we would do this, maybe around spring finals, and ask them about sort of like everything there. Or maybe even wait until after spring finals because then you have the viewership uptick. I'm open to being convinced otherwise. If people really think I need to like talk to them now, as I'm thinking about what that interview looks like I feel like the spring split story is somewhat untold,
unfinished.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for the viewer. I'd be curious to hear what he thought after I say this. But like I initially was excited to hear your follow-up interview in the middle of the split because like you, I was worried that it would be even worse than it is. And it's not. And so I wonder then to let the full spring split play out so then we have a more accurate picture and compare it then to all the finished other spring splits. Because right now, the viewership is, I just checked, I think it's right north of 100,000, which is not great.
At the peak, yeah.
No, not peak. I don't really care about peak for the reason that Travis said, because it'll be decided based off
finals probably.
Finals, yeah, that's when the peak will be. But I do care about the average, which is currently down. It's at 102,000 right now, and the average in summer was 125-ish. At least this is based off publicly available data on esports charts. Now that said, it does go back up in playoffs, and summer rallied really hard in playoffs. And so there's also the fact that usually spring is higher than summer. So the fact that spring is currently averaging lower is not good. But to Travis's point, it's kind of unfinished, the story. Because if it does rally really hard in playoffs, then maybe we do overtake summer again, and you can have a more accurate conversation. So that's my take. I think I have come around to wanting it at the end, but I don't know if you still would be like, give it to me now.
I mean, I would have been down. I think it would have made more sense for me to interview them now if we were like in a really bad spot. You know, if games were getting like 50K average on Twitch and stuff like that, and the shit was hitting the fan, everybody was hysterical. I think that's what I'm like, yeah, you promised me we'd do this interview, and we're about halfway through the split. But given that we're kind of in this weird in between, I don't know if now is when I want to have that conversation. So I could be convinced otherwise, and I want to make sure that people understand that it's not that Riot isn't down to do it because they've already reached out. But I just had other priorities this past week. So Thumper, I don't know if you have any other follow-up.
I do agree. I think that is good to wait till spring is over. I did have another question. Has MSI been announced?
Yes. Yeah. No, it was announced a while ago. Tickets already went on sale.
Oh.
It's in London.
Oh, gross.
My London Bridge want to go down.
Why? Wait, why do you say gross?
Because I'm in Las Vegas.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. No, and then do you know where Worlds is, Thumper?
No.
It's in Korea.
Not Las Vegas.
Well, that's gross too.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Las Vegas is not the entire. Anyway.
You know, a lot of people call Las Vegas gross, to be fair as well.
It is pretty bad.
What is not gross to you, bro?
I don't know.
You know what? I'm right. This is the vibe that I have had this past week, Thumper. So I am right there with you.
Everything is just gross.
Right. Yeah, I am. I really appreciate this. I am picking this up. Either way, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Not really.
Yep. Agreed. Anyway, catch you next time.
Thank you.
It took me a minute to come around to him, but Thumper's a fucking vibe.
Yeah. That's me. All right, me IRL. All right, Mark, go grab the next caller for down. Okay, Sathi Poo, thank you for the sub. Osk HD, Jammin TST, an Irish Blizzard. Irish Blizzard almost at 60 months, 5 years. We're at 59 months right now. Anyway, Thumper. I'm right there with you. All right, Mark is grabbing the next caller. We've got about 3 more calls to go tonight. And Mogul is here. Mogul, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Dallas, Texas.
And you've been on the show before because I had you turned up. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take was that teams need to implement mental health consultants or legitimate mental health staff that have psychiatric training in their systems, such as TL does, so that they can address situations such as the Danny situation before they become legitimate issues that would threaten careers like it did with the Danny situation.
Mark, I'll let you take over.
Do you think that this is too something you still wouldn't touch on? Because it's more of a ecosystem point. I have another Danny one that's more specific to the EG, but I think for this it's more about like what do you think about I know you haven't worked on a team like I have, but based off what you know from players and stuff, do you feel like there's enough care given to this area?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Go ahead.
I was asking Travis. Sorry.
I think that it's really hard to say it, and it depends on the team, because you have some teams where there is negative stuff happening. I mean, obviously we saw the allegations around Andy last year, for instance. And then you have some teams where there's just no support. I think there's a lot of teams where they have very low budgets, and so I don't believe that they are investing into that. And then you have teams who are obviously doing a lot more. And I think it's interesting to ask the question of what is the minimum viable standard? So with the Players Association, for instance, I think it would be very fascinating to hear them come out and basically be like, hey, we've spent some time looking into this, and we think that this is the bare minimum that every team should be providing, if that makes sense. I think that would be very good. But yeah, I don't want to talk to maybe the specifics of this specific situation.
Okay. I think I don't know if you want me to hop in, Mogul, but there's Bowen. I think his name. I don't know if it's Bowen or Bowen.
Bowen,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, Bowen.
Yeah, he works with TL. He's one of the people who's like one of the consultants or whatever. He was potentially going to chime in tonight, but he had a dinner thing. But I think he did a good job highlighting some of like it feels like extremely obvious for people to on the outside to be like, hey, hire people and have a budget allocated towards a like third party.
Did he post about this somewhere?
He has to twit longer, and
Okay.
he also commented in our Discord about it a little bit.
Oh yeah, Bowen's great.
He's talked about how
recommend people go check out his stuff.
Yeah, I should probably retweet this honestly, but he talked about how like just there's even if you are well intentioned, there's like hurdles in terms of like, hey, the American healthcare system's not great. A lot of these people are coming from overseas. You have to sign people up during certain windows. If you're not familiar, there's like enrollment periods, and like if something doesn't get done in time, you might miss enrollment periods. The players themselves have like weird windows that are like their off days or off times, and so like scheduling appointments can be difficult if you're like going in network and like the in network versus out network, and like there's just like a level of logistics that can sometimes get lost. And he is advocating heavily for teams to clear these hurdles. He's not saying that it's not important, but just saying like how underrepresented it seems to be in esports. Team Liquid is one of the teams. I think someone in Twitch chat mentioned 100 Thieves and whatnot. But like, you know, he talks about how like it's a lot of people can write off something as someone's tilted or toxic with teammates and coaches, but that like, you know, that irritability or like their attitude or their lack of interest in engaging could come from depression, anxiety, or these other things. And if you don't treat them, it can lead to other problems like substance abuse and like this kind of stuff. And like, you know, it's just something that is not talked about. I don't want to say it's not taken seriously, but I just don't think it's like given the full attention it should be. And yeah, I think he just has a good write-up about it. And it's something that, you know, realistically with the amount of stress and pressure that the pro players are under, with like how young a lot of them are, how some of them have not like experienced much else beyond like, I played video games as a kid and now I'm in this environment, you know, like it's sometimes hard to admit you need help. And like, if you just normalize the existence of this person that you're going to talk to every so often, and like, you know, it doesn't feel so much like oh, you're broken, go see this person kind of thing, or whatever it might be. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons to look for it.
Mogul, go
if
ahead.
I might add something to the like online sentiment, because I'm actually quite passionate about this at least on Reddit a little bit. And one prevailing sentiment that I found was that people think that there needs to be a way for people to access, for example, mental health services, or like have these things without the team involved necessarily. Like have someone that it has their side specifically without, you know, necessarily having the team's interests in mind. Like the conflict of interest at that point was a point that came across a lot. I feel like the LCS themselves need to have like somebody that players can go to, like a kind of like an unbiased arbitrator or something like that can actually help with this situation. Like if the LCS had a mental health consultant that players could go to on their own, that would be amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point. And again, it's part of the reason why I go back to the Players Association stuff, where like ideally the Players Association is working as an independent organization to assist the players in this stuff. I don't know if they need like, I mean, unfortunately, the Players Association is only going to be doing things that the players care about. And so as ironic as it is to say in this situation, I don't know if they care enough about it to like make sure that the association helps them with this stuff. But I personally think that like, you know, yeah, you can say Riot, but Riot is also not independent, right? Like they are running the league and they have their own motivations and all that stuff. And so truly putting this as the priority of an entity that is solely there to assist the players, I think is a much better solution than like the team or riot, you know?
Yeah. And I also think that, like, in some sense, you need to have people kind of going towards, you know, this kind of stuff without needing to seek it out themselves. Because I think, like, I can speak for myself. When I was struggling, I didn't go to a therapist myself for like 5 or 6 years because I was like, I'll just tough it out. And I think there's a lot of people who don't, especially when you're younger, want to admit that you need help or something. And so that's why, like, I don't want to say forcing it on people, but like normalizing and making it like more routine to discuss how you're thinking and feeling and how like your current situation is. So it doesn't feel like this, like you need to bottom out before you're like, it's time to do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. So thank you so much, Mogul, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to TL Bowen, frankly. He does an amazing job. He's a super big advocate for mental health, from what I can tell, especially in League. So just shout out to him. Everybody go check out his Twitter and his Twitlonger. It's a great write-up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time. All right. Off mark goes to get the next caller. Let's see. Thank you to Irish Blizzard for the sub. Really appreciate it. Just looking at the Twitch chat right now. Yeah, there was an interesting thing that happened where last year, I think it was, we had Talkspace as a sponsor on the show. Full disclosure. And then Steve reached out to me and actually got in touch with Talkspace. And I don't know if they're doing it right now, but I know that for a while, Team Liquid did a deal that allowed Talkspace to support, to be like a resource for all of their staff. So themaster 3099, where are you calling from?
Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that EG management don't get to make this mistake twice, and there needs to be some feet held to the fire after this.
All right, Mark, I'm gonna let you
go get a snack. Go get a yogurt. Go ahead, the master, if you have more follow up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, frankly, I think they need to understand they're dealing with very young players with very little to no life experience in an extremely high stress and public environment. And it seems that there's been a complete blunder of what's happened. The worst part to me, I think, is the attitude that the management seems to had, according to all the articles that I've read, towards Danny, and seems to think of him as much more of a commodity than a person, or at least thinking of him as a commodity before thinking of him as a person. Like, to get to the point of malnourishment is not easy. Like, I worked with mental health. I worked with people who are mentally ill in a couple different places, and to see people get to the point of malnourishment is not easy. It's not something that happens overnight. It is extremely hard to get to that point, and you notice when that happens. That's not something you don't notice. So there's no way they didn't know what was going on at some level, and they had to have made multiple mistakes for it to get this bad. So I don't think they should just this shouldn't just be swept under the rug. There needs to be some serious consequences for something like this. And this, honestly, I've heard some talk about this too. This is, as terrible as this situation is, it could have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I said a couple similar things in my own video, and like, I think people somehow misunderstand. Even on Reddit, I saw people like misunderstanding by saying it could have been worse by saying it's not that bad. And like, I think you understand very much what I mean is like, whether that's turning to self-harm or drug abuse or like substance abuse or whatever it is, like things can get worse and like legitimately ruin lives. And like, while this has ruined Danny's career in some sense, like he seems to be recovering and like has his full life ahead of him. You know, like it could be more dangerous. And that's why I'm with you that like, I think, again, people might not have understood me saying that something needs to be like, there needs to be a follow-up from this. Clearly, I was talking about like an investigation should take place, I think, because it's not just, I talk a lot about the systemic angle because that's, I think, something that is more far-reaching. But I think that this one is important also in a far-reaching sense because it shows that you have the players back in some sense from Riot if you do an investigation to say like, hey, we do take your safety seriously, you know, and you know, I assume based off the reports that this stuff is accurate, and at the very least you're going to dig into it. I don't know 100% what's true, so I'm not like, people are like, kick him out of the league, do this, that. I don't know exactly what the repercussions should be, but like at least showing that there is an effort to be made to make sure that like to look into it, and because even just that action I think can speak as well, and then, you know, whatever happens as a result of the investigation is another thing entirely. So like I'm with you that like it's that it takes a lot to get to that point, and I think because of how normalized the rest is on the systemic issues, why I talked about that a lot at the beginning, it makes it for like coaches and people, it's very hard to, it shouldn't be normalized, but it sadly is, and it makes it hard to differentiate between like what's kind of par for the course. Like I said, like some of us struggled to eat, like getting malnourished is a whole nother level, but like I struggled to eat in the mornings. I didn't eat breakfast for like 5 years because of this, you know. It's like, if someone was like, is Mark going to make it through playoffs? You know, like the answer I would say is yes, of course. And like, it can make it hard, but like, I think to your point, the thing that really like, obviously that's bad and it needs to get fixed. And that's why I'm campaigning so much for that. But also when someone does say, I'm done, I can't do it, to then like push them harder. And like you said, the commodification of another human. And that's why I use the Terry Pratchett quote, because I think it's really good. Like, yeah, that stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think the point to be pushing them harder is Danny should not be in a position, if he is this stressed out and in this mental space, he should not be the one making the call that I am done. It should be done by coaches, by management. Like you almost can't trust people when they're in that situation. I know you talked about it in your video, like you're going to say you're always fine because you want to push through. You don't want to be the person to let you down. But if someone comes in and tells you, hey, you need to go home now, you're probably not going to fight them, or you're going to at least agree with their decision, or you don't give them a choice. You say, hey, this is for your safety. You need to take a step back and take some rest because this is not good for you.
I see some people talking about like systemic as well. Like I think each situation is different. Like Danny has his own unique things about him, being on the autistic spectrum, as well as just like the fact that he was playing for extended periods of time, and like, you know, every situation is going to be different. But someone said like, is it like everyone in the league has depression? And like the reason I brought up the Ablaze Olive example is because, you know, he admitted that he stepped back for these kinds of reasons, and like it shows that it is prevalent. But you know, each case has its own causes of it. I highlighted as well, based off the Arsh report, that like someone on the performance team was like skipping meetings and like not paying attention when these sorts of topics were being discussed. And it's like that sort of disinterest in the problems is like what allows them to get so bad that this person is then breaking down in playoffs. Because yes, you want to hold the people accountable who then commodified him, which is disgusting. But like the other issue is also, how do you stop people from getting to this point that they need to step back? Like a good for Ablaze Olive that he stepped back. You know, like I support him in doing that, but I'd also prefer if he didn't get to the point where he felt like that needed to happen. I don't know Immortal's entire staff. Travis was kind of talking about how like budgets and who knows what exactly, but like obviously it's an important enough thing that like if you think Ablaze Olive is your best mid laner and you're losing him, that's obviously like on a market level not a good thing. You know, like obviously if EG really valued Danny as a brand and as a member, like even if you like the whole like someone's a family thing, like I just never buy that. It goes in one ear out the other. I don't hold any company to think that they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Like even from a capitalist perspective, like you would argue that like if this person does bring you brand value, it's in your best interest to make them happy, you know. So that's where for me it's like it doesn't even make sense, you know. Like it's indifference that someone is suffering, and then once you realize it and it's gone this far, you just get everything you can from them before they're gone. So like yeah, it's a shit situation.
Yeah, I think the ASD, the autism point, is not insignificant. Like autism is basically a 1% of the population, and among gamers, especially really intense gamers, I would imagine it's slightly higher. So I don't think it's impossible that EG specifically deal with another player that has autism or is on the spectrum. So that's another point where, yes, Danny is a specific case, but this specific case might come up again. Not that there's a lot to say about that, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And making sure that, like, if you have a special case, but you, again, think that they are a good enough player, like, then you should absolutely make sure that you are protecting them and they have the support that they need.
I think the one last thing I wanted to talk about too was just the announcement after of Danny tweet his whole tweet where he's part of the content team, and I think at best that's like paying him back for the mistakes they made, and at worst that's hush money, right? Which, like, I don't know what it is, I don't know the situation, but it's not good to see. It seems from the outside. Or
that one to me, I didn't talk about that in my video. It's one that, like, it's very easy to put on the tinfoil conspiracy hat and it's hush money, and it could be, I don't know, to your point, but it also is very possible that, like, they're trying to support him now. Like, based off the remarks that were made from the quotes pulled from the Arsh one, it's hard to believe that, like, it's like in the best interest of Danny. I don't know, but, like, again, that's something that I don't have clarity into. So it's for me, just who knows? I think
it's absolute speculation. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, people are free to do that. I don't condemn people who do speculate, but for me, like, I don't know. And there's things that I think are more important to talk about.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess Travis is AFK, so I will say thanks for joining us on the call. I think this was a good conversation. I appreciate you taking it with me. Do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think ARM is way better now with the turrets and the
all right, you gotta fucking go, buddy. This is the most unhinged thing I've ever heard on our show.
Ports make ARAM fun. You're wrong, Mark. I just want to let you know. Yeah, that's everything. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one. Again,
I can't believe that you showed back up for that ARAM part.
I don't know. I saw people in chat confused. I think I talked about it at the beginning of the show that I was not going to be able to talk about this stuff. So
yeah, Twitch has a high turnover rate. Unfortunately, if you guys are confused, you can catch the beginning when the VOD is posted.
Yeah, I just wish people in the chat would have explained. Anyway, Mark, do you want to go grab the next caller?
Yes, sir.
Thank you to Shaunatonin and Pilgrim Panda for these subs. Okay. Munchkin is here. Munchkin, where are you calling from?
Calling from Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So a lot of orgs have been in the spotlight lately, and I want to bring us back to the golden child, Cloud9, the best organization in NA history. I've got a couple points. First, they have a quarter of all championships with 5 of 20. Second, they are the team to go to Worlds the most, 9 times of their 10 possible. They have a finals appearance in every single year of the LCS, and they've had an MVP for the last 4 years, and Fudge is a strong contender for just this split. They bring up NA talent, they bring garbage talent and make them not trash, and they find random good spots. They have a phenomenal owner, they have great socials, they have phenomenal content. Even their coaching staff is personalities. They are above every other organization in every category, and it's ridiculous that they're just the best team. There really should be another org that actually competes with them on something.
How did you feel about the LS controversy last year?
So I wasn't really an LS fan before he was picked up, and when he was picked up, I was just kind of on board for C9 always does crazy things. We just dropped perks at that point. But it's kind of just what C9 does. Even when they have off times, they've had one time they've not made playoffs. You kind of accept that slump and just keep moving forward because you know they will always bounce back no matter what. They have finished their regular season on average at a placing of 2.6.
How do you feel about when players on C9's payroll were given stock options, which was against the LCS rules, as a way to keep the salaries lower?
It's one of those things where it was kind of new to the whole situation of how that all works, and I know a major player in that was Sneaky, and I think it is just them trying to do due diligence to their players, respect them for their time. There was a strong outpouring of anger when Sven replaced Sneaky, and I think that's kind of just they are trying to do their best to recognize their players, and yes, it broke rules, and they learned from that and they fixed it, and they haven't, done that specific rule breaking since, and I think the whole environment and ecosystem learns from it. And you can see that from all of their players coming back in content in years past. Meteos, Sneaky, High, these players that haven't played for C9 or even been a content creator for them are still coming back because of how great the org is.
How did you feel about the kind of bundling that went on with Academy players and maybe making it difficult for them to find teams? There's been some allegations about that over the years.
I think the major thing there is that it definitely happens now and again, but I think that will happen with most anyone. If you look at the league currently, almost every team has a former C9 player on it, or a former C9 player has been with that org very recently, because they do let their players get around. I think there are moments where they don't entirely know the options they're going to get. The biggest example is 2020. They said they were going to hold on to Licorice and Niski. They got a perks option. They dropped both of them immediately, and Licorice kind of floundered to FlyQuest and Golden Guardians. Niski was off a team for a while. But the players always bounce back. They try and make the connections. They were the connection for perks to get over to Vitality, even though G2 was kind of being a dick about it before perks came over here. So C9 does have their issues, but not to the extent of most of the other orgs, and they always try and learn from their issues and improve.
Travis, I don't know, am I forgetting any of the other C9 controversies?
I mean, there are other random ones. I mean, didn't they recently drop their Valorant player and that's like a huge thing?
I don't know anything about other.
Yeah. There's some drama around that as well. I just hope that someday I find someone who loves and supports me as much as Munchkin loves and supports Cloud9. Like, this is incredible.
Everyone deserves a Munchkin in their life.
Yeah. It's like, no, you don't understand, honey. I just burned down the house. Well, yes, but we all learn from these things, and just because you were barbecuing in the living room does not mean that it's not something that you were trying to make a meal for us. I don't even know what the fuck to do with this call.
I don't know. To be honest, I just pulled it because it was interesting. But if Jack is watching this, I hope it's not like, what the fuck? Why did Mark come at us so hard all of a sudden? It's just, I don't even have anything against C9, but it's just I needed to rib the caller and see what he would say for all the controversies that they faced over the years I could think of. Once I started, I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
No, I mean it's understandable. I've been a fan of C9 since Worlds 2014 just because of their crazy run, knocking Alliance out with Kaboom and that whole situation. So I've been for the ups and downs, and I've been pissed off and mad at them before, but I feel like unlike most orgs, they don't remake the same mistake. They'll make a mistake, they'll fuck up, but then they'll bring it back, they'll learn from it, they'll address it immediately in their content. They won't hide from it like some other orgs that I won't say names.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
What I'll say is that little game I just played there where I listed all the controversies. I could do that for literally any team in the LCS. I could do it for Riot Games. I'm not trying to single out C9. It's just because that's the team that the caller was slobbering on.
Yeah, I mean, Munchkin, I guess I am happy that C9 has made it to Worlds so many times and all that. I don't know if I would agree with the assessment that they are just by golly, the best esports team to ever exist in the LCS. I don't know, quite frankly, if to Mark's point, if there is one. I mean, that's kind of what makes people fans, right? I'm happy you're a Cloud9 fan and that you can feel that way, but I don't I don't personally feel that way about any of the LCS teams. I think they've all had their issues and their fuck ups, and some greater than others, obviously. But I don't know. Obviously, I wish we had teams that were more consistently going to Worlds.
I think for C9 as well, like if I'm gonna not be a dick about the whole thing, like there are some things that Munchkin said that are not just pure like C9 fan thing, like all the stats you're saying about their continued success. I think that is like a legitimate thing that you can tip your hat to Jack to. Like he has done a better job than anyone else in LCS history of making his team consistently good. They're the most consistent team in the LCS by a mile. It's not even close. Like TSM has had their collapse from being the most dominant team ever. You know, TL had their like little run. A lot of teams have had their little runs for a couple of years, but C9 is perpetually in the conversation. I think he's willing to take big risks. And like sometimes they alienate fans, but like he is clearly invested in trying to be good, even if it's sometimes through the less popular moves. Doesn't always seem to be chasing trends, it feels like. I think.
Yeah, I will say that they take risks and they tend to pay off pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to mention the content too. Like they have not backed down from content as hard as some teams have. You know, like I appreciate them for that. I think there's a lot of things to appreciate about C9. Not to say that they don't have their little mistakes too, but like if every org was Cloud9, I think things would probably be pretty good.
Thanks so much, Munchkin, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to my friend Heather, who just launched her podcast, What the Heath. And shout out to Hotline League. You guys are awesome, keeping the community engaged. If you have a Prime sub, give it to Travis right now.
Thank you, Munchkin, for the call.
Where are my goddamn Twitch Primes?
I really appreciate it.
I know
We'll catch you next time.
There's 1,100 of you in chat, near 1,200. Some of you got them rattling around in there. You know what? I've got one. How do I resubscribe with my Prime? Where's my Prime? I don't want to use Prime sub. Do
you have a Prime sub?
There you go.
You're actually going to use it?
I fucking never use my Prime sub. Yeah,
I think this will be the first time you will have ever used your sub on my channel.
I'm so lazy, dude. I should have clicked someone else.
You've been subbed for a long time.
Rush is streaming. I could have subbed to Rush. God damn it.
You didn't even sub to me. It didn't come through.
I did.
Oh, you refresh and see if it's still there. It might give you the alert. Because what happens is sometimes people send their Prime and it doesn't go through, or you have to press the button to get it to. There you go. Oh, wait. Now that's somebody else.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, dude. It says... Show my message, share. Show me. Is that there we go?
Yeah, that's what you need to do.
Look at it. Whatever. Anyways, the point is I regret it. All right.
Are you going to be doing catching up with Double Lift every week?
We plan to have. We shot 6. We've done 2 released so far.
Okay.
And I think the editing pace is good enough to turn around every week.
Okay. I worry that every week is too much.
I guess we'll find out. I guess it depends how much you appreciate this kind of stuff. I fucking love the Eric Andre show. And each bit is like different depending on if we want to be more physical comedy or more like verbal or whatever. So I don't know. We'll see if people get sick of it. It did well on YouTube for once.
I'm already sick of it.
You actually made a... well, I just don't think it's your cup of tea.
No. I do like it. Here's my one thing. Is the stage manager sitting awkwardly behind the person every time?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? We can go on a walk this week and we can talk about it.
That is the Eric Andre show. The guy's always there basically, but you do things with him. You do different things.
Okay.
I showed that one to Ashley, the speaker one, and she didn't laugh at all. And I was like, nailed it. She hates the Eric Andre show sense of humor.
Yeah, this does not surprise me. Yeah, this is the same man who used to be the ref for Bud Light beer pong.
He used to be a PA. So if you go back to like the really old sketches from like 2015, 2016, 2017 era, he did a lot of them. And then Joel kind of took over, and Joel was the guy. He moved on. Joel's actually the mask man.
The mask
man? He popped
man?
out of the... Yeah, he's the luchador. He popped out of the table, and he also did the death metal karaoke bit.
Spoilers. Okay, so... I guess I could show this Ayla interview now.
Wait, have we officially ended the show? Can we end the show so I can... walk away.
We're going to end the show, but I was just saying I can air that at the end here. Are you going to watch it?
I'll listen to it. I have my headset on. I'll walk around. You know me.
Okay. Well, sounds good. We'll do that. Thanks for... Oh, no surprise test this week because we are, I guess, needing another editor for it, which is... And Blame Game might get delayed because of that, too. But we should catch up, Mark.
Yeah, you should tell me what happened.
Nothing terrible. Just somebody.
Yeah, when you said that, I was just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. We'll talk about it. We have to catch up anyway.
I don't want to catch up.
What?
What'd
you say?
Nothing.
Do you have anything you want to shout out?
Shout out us. Shout out Hotline League. We're two pillars of the community, and we're fantastic.
Really? That's what we're doing?
Yeah. Was it wrong? Have I lied?
I don't know. I feel like I'm persona non grata this week. And so it's just a funny week to shout ourselves out.
Google that. Persona
non grata.
An unacceptable or unwelcome person?
Yes.
This week?
Oh, good point. That's the show, everybody. Goodbye.